Hey everyone, Happy New Year! I am Anthony Scott at ToyHypeUSA.com. Today we are taking a look at the fourth box of the FanHome Star Wars R2-D2 Astromech Droid. This is a subscription box, and each magazine comes with parts so you can build R2-D2. We've done 3 videos before, and this is the fourth one. R2-D2 features LED lights, interactive intelligence, multiple modes and functions. When completed, he is half the size that you would see in the film, and he's made of high-end parts and material. He also has his own app which you can download, which activates the interactive features. So we're not up to the app yet, but once he's completed, we will be. Right here, these are the 4 magazines. Issue 11 through 14 are in the box. And you see that each one of these magazines are a different color, going to have different covers, different articles in there. Here's a look at the parts for issues 11 and 12. Each one comes with a baggie with the number 11 and 12 on top. And you also have 13 and 14. Here is a look at 13 and 14. So what I'm going to do now is open this up. Let's take a look at issue number 11. Here's a look at issue 11 along with the parts once again. The parts inside, you're going to have another frame, and you're going to have this metal piece that's going to stick up. We're going to take a closer look at that. You also see all those screws and bolts that are included. The instructions will specify how the assembly is. So just make sure to have all the parts and pieces from the first 3 boxes before you start assembling this. The cover, R2-D2, which is different than was previously offered. And you'll see a little bit of detail of the articles, including Building R2-D2, Inside Star Wars, Visual Effects Part 2. And for Droid Directory, we're going to take a look at the RA7 Particle Droid. So the layout is the same as previously offered magazines. You have the table of contents on the left, and it jumps in right to the first article, which is Visual Effects Part 2. And in these articles, they do a really good job getting some old photographs, doing a really good write-up on each one. You see George Lucas, much younger, right there. I don't know if it says what year that photograph was taken, but this was probably in the 70s. So here's a continuation of that article, some more old photographs. Old workstation. Next article, the RA7 Particle Droid. Design concepts for it. Continuation for the article, including an image from Clone Wars. And an image from Star Wars Rebels. So he was featured in several animated series as well. And the last page on that. New article, AI, Artificial Intelligence. talking about the technology for it. And the final part of this magazine is the construction of R2-D2. On here is a look at all the parts in this bag, including the support rod, which you see there, the frame, and all of the bolts and screws and everything. And on this side, you have a look at the assembly. It looks pretty much straightforward. And then just the back of it here. So what I'm going to do now is begin the assembly, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the completed assembly. For this step, you're just going to be working on the frame. You're just going to be attaching one of these on here. And that is it. Everything else is going to be put to the side, including the rest of the screws and the rod, which you see on the left there, all those parts and everything. So you're going to be installing the bolts and the screws just like on the other side here. And then you're just going to be screwing it in, which you see the screws in there. Taking a closer look at this, here's another look at the parts. So again, the rod, the rest of these screws and the bolts are going to be put on the side. And you're just going to be working on this assembly. Do hold on to everything as you will be using it later on. So once you put the bolts and the screws on, you're going to have a piece that looks just like this that I just showed you. Alright, so that is the end of issue 11. Let's take a look at issue 12. Here's a look at issue 12. Inside this issue is building R2-D2, the dome and leg frames, inside Star Wars, filming reshoots and pickups, and for Droid Directory, we have the MSE-6 repair droids. You see R2-D2 on the cover here, and the artwork is different compared to other issues. Opening this up, you have the table of contents on the left, and a look at the first article, which is Finishing Touches. Closer look at that. Some really great images on here, which you can see. Up next is the MSC series repair droid. A lot of good details about this droid. All right. Up next, and a continuation of that. So now that we're through that, here is a look at all the components associated with bag number 12, which again is right here. Oop. So there's your look at that. Inside here, you're going to be using a lot of these parts, probably all these parts. And on here, it specifies where these parts are going to go. So I know we started building this leg, so we're going to be continuing with the leg. And here's a look at the steps and everything. And there's a look at the back. So what I'm going to do now is work on assembly, and then we're going to go back and take a look at all this. Okay, so here's a look at the completed frame. You would see that most of it around the side is done at this point. And what you're going to be doing is putting on these two pieces here. Just be aware that both of these are different, so make sure to put it on the right order. And here is a closer look at that. So you're going to start off with those two pieces there, some nuts and screws, and just very carefully, very slowly install it. Again, it goes in a certain order, so just pay extra close attention to that. And that's the completion of that. Up next is the right leg frame. Let's get that to stand upright. And what you're going to be doing is completing the assembly for this. Two of these frames came with the previous box, so what you're going to be doing is taking the two previously offered frames, which is these two pieces right here, and connecting it to these two pieces with the centerpiece right here, using bolts and screws. And there is a closer look at it right here. And also do take your time assembling this. Don't make any mistakes. See how the nuts and screws are installed. And that is your completed assembly. So right now we are going to be moving on to issue number 13. All right, so here's a look at issue 13. Inside this issue, we have building R2-D2, adding the head frame. Inside Star Wars, ready for release. And for Droid Directory, we have a look at the ITO interrogator droid, which you see images there on the cover. It's also a different cover from previously seen, including a new look at R2-D2. So, opening this up, and we have the table of contents on the left there as always, and we're going right into the articles here. And a continuation of that. Inside this, some really great images that you've probably never seen anywhere else. And ITO interrogator droids. It's an article about space robots. And a continuation of that. So here, we're going to be building the head frame and base components for R2-D2. You're going to be using all these parts right here. And the assembly. So what you're going to be doing is finishing off the frame as shown. This gives you all the steps there. And that's a look at it completed. And then you're going to be assembling the support base, which you see here. So you're going to be using the rod plus the parts that have been offered in this box. Step-by-step instructions. So just make sure to really take your time when you assemble this. And I'll look at the back. So what I'm going to do now is assemble it, and let's take a look. Here's a look at the completed assembly. Both the head cases and the stand is now completed, and I even put it on top of the stand. So as you're building the head for R2-D2, you're going to leave it on the stand here, and this will help it stay up and be a lot helpful during assembly. It's easy to take on and off, and the rod just fits right in the center there. I don't think this rod and stand will be used for the final assembly. I believe it's just the head. So there's your look at that. We are moving on to issue number 14. Here's a closer look at issue 14. Inside this issue, building R2-D2, head frame, and leg assembles. Inside Star Wars, launching a phenomenon, and Droid Directory, R2 series Astromech droids. So the first page, we have a look at the table of contents, and on the other side, the first article, Birth of a Phenomenon. And you see all this great article here, and an image you've probably never seen before. Continuation of that. Some Star Wars merchandise also included. And a look at the R5 Astromech droids. Just take a moment to really appreciate the artwork and the layout, not to mention the images that they did for the fans. And a continuation of that. On here, you also have a look at Jabba the Hutt. And some more droids. This here is from Clone Wars R5s. Another article for robotics. And here's a look at the head frame and leg components. These are all the parts that are going to be used. And here's a look at that, which you see here. I also forgot to mention with issue 13, it also came with this part, so keep this handy. For assembly, you're going to be using both parts that I just showed you from issues 13 and 14. And with here, you're going to be creating a ring, screwing it together as shown. Let's take a closer look up here first. Completed assembly. Very easy to do. And R2-D2's right ankles. Here's a look at the back. So what I'm going to do now is assemble this, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the completed steps. As you can see, the center ring is now assembled. It's connected with this piece right here. So I just screwed it in on the back there with a couple of screws. Should be able to see that right there. And R2-D2's right ankle fittings are also finished. So there is your look at that. And you're going to be screwing it on the back. I ran out of black screws since only 3 were included in this box, but I had to go back to the parts previously offered with other boxes, and there were a couple of black screws left. So make sure to save everything as you work through R2-D2, especially screws, as you will likely need at least some of or most of them throughout assembly. And just to show you guys, there are some leftover parts. So we have another one of these brackets that are not going to be used right now. So make sure to save it, keep it in a handy container, as this is, just so you don't lose it. I am Anthony Scott at toyhypeusa.com. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to FanHome for providing this for review. Please like and share this video, as it tells YouTube to share it with more people. We would greatly appreciate that. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more coverage.